In the concrete heart of the city, where daylight never quite reaches the lower floors, there exists a room that hums with a quiet, electronic despair. This is the night shift at the Hotline Crisis Call Center, a sterile limbo of glowing monitors and ergonomic chairs, where the only connection to the outside world is a fiber optic thread of human sorrow. Alia has inhabited this limbo for 3 years, her voice a calibrated instrument of calm, her empathy a tool she meticulously wipes clean after each call. She listens to the fractures in people's lives, the deaths, the heartbreaks, the slow-motion shattering of minds, and offers the only solace she can, the fact of being heard. But on this particular night, a Tuesday that felt no different from any other, the nature of the calls shifted. It began with Marjorie. The caller ID flashed unknown, but the voice was crystalline. An elderly woman's, frayed with a pain that was both fresh and strangely distant. She spoke of a fall in a bathroom, of pressing a medical alert pendant over and over, of calling out into an empty house that swallowed her voice. Her question wasn't a request for help now. It was an ache from the past. Why didn't anyone answer me? As the woman spoke, Alia's screen auto-populated a data field she had never seen before. A red banner reading deceased with a link to a digital obituary for Marjorie Stevens, who had died 2 years prior from complications following a fall. The time of death listed was 2:14 a.m. The call disconnected, leaving Alia staring at the photograph of a smiling old woman who had, by all earthly logic, just spoken to her. Before the cold knot of disbelief in her stomach could fully form, another call sliced through the silence. This one was a young man, his voice choked with the metallic taste of panic, describing the spin of his car, the crunch of metal, the desperate fumbling for a phone. "I'm calling 911, but it just rings and rings," he gasped, his words punctuated by the ghost of a crash that had already happened. Again, the system flagged him, deceased, 3 years, victim of a single vehicle accident on the interstate. Then came a teenage girl, her whisper a damp confession of loneliness in a locked school bathroom, wondering why her best friend had left her on red, why the world had turned its back. Her flag, deceased, 1 year self-inflicted. Each caller, a soul trapped in the feedback loop of their most desperate moment, each one ending their spectral transmission with the same haunting refrain, a plea for an answer that never came when it mattered most. Alia's training, a fortress of protocols and crisis scripts, crumbled. This was beyond psychology, beyond any glitch the IT help desk could explain. Driven by a frantic, scholarly need to impose order on the Terra, she began to document the impossible. She created a private log, cross-referencing the names, dates of death, and the precise times their calls were coming into her station. The calls kept arriving, a solemn procession of the departed, a factory worker trapped in a collapsed warehouse, a hiker lost on a storm-racked mountain, a mother pleading from a flooding car. Their tragedies were diverse, but their core message was a universal wound, the profound isolation of being unheard in your final moment. It was during this grim cataloging that the first pattern emerged, subtle as a hairline crack in reality. She noted the times of the incoming calls, 1:07 a.m., 1:13 a.m., 1:22 a.m. They were all happening on this night, June 15th, but these people died years apart. Why would they all call tonight? Puzzled, she pulled the original incident reports from news archives. Marjorie Stevens pressed her life alert at 1:07 a.m. The car wreck victim dialed 911 at 1:13 a.m. The teenager sent her final, unanswered text at 1:22 a.m. A chilling symmetry revealed itself. Each soul was calling her at the exact minute, to the second, that they had made their final, futile cry for help in life. The Hotline wasn't receiving random ghost calls. It was intercepting echoes, perfectly preserved moments of failed connection bouncing through eternity. The second pattern was the true ice water in the veins. As she filled her spreadsheet, a column of dates of death began to align. At first, she thought it was a mistake, an error in her wary vision. She checked and rechecked. Marjorie Stevens, June 15th. The car accident victim, June 15th. The teenager, June 15th. The factory worker, the hiker, the mother in the flood, all of them, regardless of the year, had died on the same calendar date. A cold, impossible thread stitched together these disparate lives. Her eyes, wide with dawning horror, lifted from the screen to the wall calendar beside her desk. The page was turned to June. Today's date, the 15th, was circled in the cheerful red pen of a day shift manager's birthday reminder. The air left the room. She wasn't just listening to the dead, she was listening to the chorus of a specific day, a fatal anniversary that repeated across years, and they were all singing to her tonight. The logic of it, cruel and absolute, began to close around her like a trap. Why her? Why tonight? If this was a convergence of souls who died on June 15th, then the line was open for a reason. The calls were not random, they were a beacon, and she was within its signal. A tremor started in her hands as she opened a new browser tab. She typed her own name, a nervous habit from a more vain time, but this time she added the words obituary and the city. She hovered over the search button, a part of her screaming to stop, but the larger, terrified part needed to know. She clicked. The page loaded slowly, and for a moment there was nothing but a generic error. Relief, thin and fleeting, washed over her. It was a glitch after all. But then she refreshed the page. A local news article loaded. Its headline stark and professional. Gas explosion at downtown office tower, claims 1 life. The article was brief, citing a suspected rupture in a kitchenette line on the 10th floor, causing a localized blast and structural collapse in the early hours of the morning. The victim, a female night shift worker, was found at her station. The time of the incident was estimated at 3:07 a.m. The article was dated tomorrow morning, and the victim's name, confirmed by authorities, was hers. The understanding did not come as a shock, but as a dreadful, settling finality. The pieces locked together with a silent, metaphysical click. She was not an operator receiving calls from the past. She was a future applicant, receiving her orientation. The voices on the line were her future colleagues, in the realm of the unanswered. They were reaching out not for comfort, but for a dreadful welcome, to show her the nature of the eternity she was about to enter, an eternity defined by one question, asked forever into a silent void. At that moment, every phone in the cavernous room began to ring. Not just her headset, but the dozens of idle terminals around her, their muted lights flashing in a frantic, red symphony. Her personal cell phone on the desk vibrated with an incoming call from unknown. The digital clock on the wall ticked from 3:06 to 3:07. The chorus of ringing was deafening, a physical pressure in the room. It was the sound of every unanswered call in history, converging on her, the newest member of the club. Alia looked at the phones, at the article bearing her name, and then at the silent, empty chairs of her co-workers. A profound and terrible loneliness engulfed her, the same loneliness that had echoed in every voice she'd heard that night. She understood now that her job had never been to save anyone. It had been to bear witness, and soon there would be no one to witness for her. With a calm that was the absolute absence of hope, she reached not for her cell phone, not for the exit, but for her professional headset. She fitted it over her ears. The cacophony of rings ceased instantly, replaced by a deep, hollow silence, like the sound inside a seashell held to the ear of a corpse. She took a breath, the last one that truly mattered, and spoke her final words into the void, answering the call that was already reaching for her from moments ahead in time, a call that would, like all the others, forever go unanswered by the living.